Hola, comrades! Today's topic of interest? Ocarina of Time. Is there a gaming franchise more consistently identified with quality than The Legend of Zelda? Only a handful of franchises can claim to have redefined gaming, and it is a very select few that can claim to have done it time and time again. From its open world to its being the first game to allow players to save their progress, the first Legend of Zelda arguably did more to create the future of gaming than did Super Mario Bros. And Donkey Kong. Aside from the series' black sheep, Zelda 2, every main series Zelda game has attracted significant critical acclaim, but the most attention goes to Ocarina of Time. Upon release, it was being called the best game ever made, and even as stories and graphics have advanced, it has not faded from that discussion. How can that be? Twilight Princess is basically just a bigger, darker, more sprawling version of it. And how about Majora's Mask and Wind Waker and Skyward Sword? These games are gorgeous and ambitious, but the only game in the franchise that has been able to approach Ocarina's reputation is the newest game in the franchise, Breath of the Wild. So how does Ocarina manage to succeed where its predecessors and successors failed? How does it manage to stand above the crowd? Does it deserve its lofty reputation? I would argue that the answer to that last question is an undeniable yes. Breath of the Wild is a model open world game. There's so much to do, and there are so many ways to do it, and what you're doing feels meaningful and important. It is a better game than Ocarina, but Ocarina is more perfect. Perfection does not equal quality. There are those who seek the perfect game. But what they mean is a game that gives them exactly what they want, which is not only too subjective for my tastes, it is not very interesting, and it's quite reductive. Video games aren't used cars or algebra tests. They shouldn't get marked down for what they aren't. There's no single right way a game should be. They should be judged for what they are. When I say perfect, what I mean is balanced, clean, well-rounded. Nothing is out of proportion. Nothing is out of place. The structure of this game is flawless. You could complain that for the next decade and a half, they made few adjustments to that structure, but can you really blame them? They use it over and over again because it works. It's genius. We start in Kokiri Forest. This is a great opening area. It's homey and familiar, but there's an undercurrent of mystery to it. Nearby are the Lost Woods. The Kokiri know you, whether they're your friends, like Saria, or bullies like Mido. Everyone is protected by the Great Deku Tree. There's this undercurrent of fading protection, like the cloak of childhood is slipping off you, exemplified by the Deku Tree dying after you cleanse him of Queen Goma. You did what you could, but it wasn't enough. That is a theme that returns later down the road. Before his death, the Deku Tree gifts you with the Kokiri Emerald and lectures you on the creation of Hyrule and the Triforce before sending you on a quest to find Princess Zelda. It is said that the Kokiri die upon stepping out of the forest, but the only part of you that's dying is the secluded, naive part. As Saria hands you the Fairy Ocarina, you're ready to step forth into the world. You emerge into Hyrule Field. Compared to the Hyrule Fields of later games, it's painfully limited, but it represents the outside world. This is it. You're not in your cozy little forest. You can go anywhere. Hyrule Castle's off in the distance, but you can also go to the mountains, or the river, or the desert. They're within arm's reach. Of course, there isn't much you can do with these drastically different climates at first, but as you grow, so do your options. You plunge into a lava-filled cave and save the Gorons from starving by killing King Dodongo. And then you save Princess Ruto from the stomach of Jabu Jabu, the patron deity of the Zoras, then save Jabu Jabu himself by killing Baronade. It's not just about the trials you brave and the feats you achieve. The people you meet are of no less importance. There's Darunia, the patriarch of the Gorons and a strong and formidable leader with a soft spot for music. You play Saria's song for him, and he begins dancing like mad. When you defeat King Dodongo, he declares you a sworn brother, and as a symbol of this brotherhood, gives to you the Goron Ruby. Then there's Ruto, the bratty princess of the Zora, whom you have to carry through Jabu Jabu's belly, a traumatizing section of the game for many players, including myself, but once you save her for good, she appreciates your heroics. In fact, she has grown quite infatuated with you, and presents you with Zora's sapphire as a sign of betrothal. By the manner in which they're given, the spiritual stones are more than symbols of the areas you've visited. They're symbols of the characters you've met and the experiences you've shared with them. Through your 3 major quests, you've woven a rich tapestry of adventures. If that was all Ocarina was, it would be a short game by modern standards, but it would be quite sound. But it's the latter part of the game and how it contrasts with the earlier part that makes its structure so perfect. You have these experiences and these stones, but it's not nearly enough. Ganondorf has made his move, and he is already chasing Zelda and Impa. Zelda throws the titular Ocarina of Time in a moat, and you retrieve it. That ocarina is the main link between this half of the game and the next. It replaces your first ocarina, the Fairy Ocarina. That was a gift from a friend. This is a magical Hyrulean royal family artifact. I think that best describes the link between the two halves. One is a child's adventure, the other a dark war for redemption. There is, of course, a more practical way in which the ocarina links the child and adult portions of the game. After Zelda throws you the ocarina, but before you pick it up, you square off with Ganondorf, but are completely outmaxed. Scrambling, you play the Song of Time on your new ocarina, and you use the 3 stones, and the door of time opens, and you grasp the Master Sword, the Bane of Evil, and then evil wins. Ganondorf seizes the chance to enter the Sacred Realm and gain great power for himself, power enough to take over the kingdom. The only reason he was able to do this is because you opened the door of time. It is your fault. 7 years pass before you can claim that Master Sword and fight against the evil. You are merely a boy then, but no longer. Ocarina was not the first Zelda game to work with the 2 worlds dynamic. That would be A Link to the Past, released half a decade earlier, but Ocarina simply makes better use of the idea. The light world and the dark world are cool, but the connection between them is minimal at best. It may be fascinating to learn that where there was the desert of mystery in the light world, there's a giant swamp in the dark world, but the intrigue is mostly subtextual. In Ocarina, it's right at the forefront. Where there were bubbly, dancing citizens in Castletown, there are now redeads. This shocking gut punch is genuinely terrifying, and it sets the tone for what is to come. Zora's domain is frozen over, Death Mountain wears a crown of fire, and the great dragon Volvigia is free again, ready to devour Gorons. Kakariko Village burns. Link's hometown, Kokiri Forest, is infested with monsters. Even in the formerly idyllic Lon Lon ranks, the lovable dope Talon has been kicked out in favor of the scheming Ingo, and Malon is basically a slave to him. Again, this is your fault, so it is only right that you have to work non-stop to set right what went wrong. Instead of 3 mild, whimsical challenges, you have 5 fearsome temples in your path. Instead of battling overgrown insects and parasites, you fight dragons and demons. This contrast only works as well as it does because of how much color is given to the early days of your adventure. It is that much sadder when the color is drained out. Your achievements were admirable, but they were those of a child. They summed to nothing. What you did was not enough to keep Ganondorf from winning. As an adult, despite the drastically increased difficulty of your fights, you find you're more capable of handling them. Instead of a slingshot, you have a bow. Instead of a cheap little sword, you have a shining white blade of justice. You can ride a horse across the darkened field and even get it to jump across Gerudo Valley. The adult section of Ocarina is much more existential than the child section. Its focus is on accepting the death of innocence and being able to carry the burden placed upon your shoulders. That drastic shift lends the game depth born of the contrast between what was and what is. Many Zelda games have a mid-game twist, but none have such a monumental, wide-ranging impact on the course of the essence of the adventure. The quotes Sheik gives throughout the second half of the game are beautiful, elegant, poetic phrases concerned with change and loss, growth and maturity, acceptance. Like the flow of a river, time winds, and nothing is like it was, and you must accept both the glory and the tragedy of that. Saria, your childhood friend, is a sage and must attend to her duties. Darunia is also a sage, as is Ruto of all people. These characters have to leave behind their lives and their wishes because they have a duty to fulfill and only they can fulfill it. This prepares you as Link to do the same thing, as after traveling the ravaged landscape, he goes to where his journey got started in earnest, Hyrule Castle, and takes on Ganondorf. As a child, you're going on a journey for your own benefit. Sure, you help people out, but it's all pleasurable. It's all easy and simple and straightforward. 7 years in the future, you're journeying because you need to, because the world needs to be saved. Conditions are rough, and nothing's a joke anymore. As a child, the boundless world of Ocarina seems made to serve you, both you as Link and you the player. 7 years later, it's you who needs to save it. The first time I played Ocarina, I was 5, and over a decade later, I can't shake the beauty of that game. It's without a doubt one of the best games ever made, and its spell on me will never lift. Anyway, if you liked what you saw today, consider donating to my Patreon so I can produce more amazing content. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff. Adios, comrades!